Alright, what's going on, beautiful creatures and daydreamers? Happy Monday to all of you amazing beings around the world, wherever you are at. Today is currently October 25th, 2021, and it is 11:21 a.m. here in Ohio. We are currently getting ready to clean a guest room, and we decided to sit down, or I decided to sit down in front of the camera today and talk to you all a little bit about why I get contracted for so many jobs, because a lot of people will technically, to me and us in general, and we'll also get into who is we us, but to beings like me, we don't consider them jobs. They are just assignments or tasks given to us by those, again, who are asking or requesting our services. Um, as you all know, I am your effeminate brother, Leo, or Delante. Well, technically it's Delante, but we go by Leo. And I am your most masculine big sister, or your effeminate little brother. Depending on how you can interpret this vessel at any given moment. And before we get into the non-binary, because we talk about that a lot, let's actually talk about like what it's like being a life coach or a government official, to be more precise. For someone who is black, gay, queer, effeminate, and have the masculine embodiment or the male physique, you wouldn't expect for someone like me to be in this sometimes authoritative position, depending on if I get contracted to be an officer for a short time or to be a therapist. Sometimes I'm also contracted to be either a school counselor or a career counselor, depending on, again, what assignment is given to me. And that's the really great part, you know? A lot of people have asked me, for someone who has all of this intellect and degrees and certifications, why would you ever go into working for the government? And I really sat back and thought about it, and I was just like, I didn't choose this. They chose me. And they choose us, like they choose us, you know? It's crazy. They find us and they choose us, and not because it's a bad thing. It's actually a really great thing. There's so many benefits that you get out of it. You do get those life skills, you do get those job skills and training that you never in a million years would have thought would have been possible. I can't dispel too much, but one of those things is one of my favorite, which is working in behavioral health. You obtain certain levels, again, of education, and one of those awesome abilities is called ABA, or Applied Behavioral Analytics. It's something that we learn. We all do it in a very unbeknownst way to us, which is literally just analyzing someone's disposition, their body language, how someone speaks, which is their linguistics, because it's their psychological processing of communications, all of these things. We analyze all of this to view if someone is a threat to us, if someone is familiar to us, if someone is trying to influence us, and that's another thing, you know, that's the opposite side. If you are familiar with psychology and the Myers-Briggs, you know, there's a such thing as, there's 8 letters we each have 4, but we also flip-flop for. So for me, I am an ENFJ. A lot of people would know us in terms of like maybe Barack Obama. You also have Oprah Winfrey, Katniss Everdeen. We're really known as the protagonist personality type. And what the E stands for is extroverted, which is just like my main, if you are someone who is into like robotics and technology, you can say that's my preset or my default setting, which is extroverted. And it's not someone who's always like rah, rah, rah and hype. What it is extroverted just means I like to be creative and I like to express myself outwardly. So whether it is my hair, because you know I've had the long hair and now most recently I'm back to having short hair, I'm usually in color that pops, and I like greens, and I like vibrant colors. I am a darker toned person, and because I've worked in retail for a very long time, I already know what looks good on my body, what doesn't, and it can range from color to certain styles. So, but also again, I like to write. I like to do creative writing. I like to make my own books, which it's more so just like my journals. And again, I like to express my thoughts. So that's like what it's like being extroverted. But then on the opposite side, I do switch and I am more introverted. Or I can be introverted. I'm actually very much an introvert when I'm at home by myself, or even if I have roommates. I'm typically just like in my room, minding my business, doing what I do best, which is just focusing on myself, not because I'm not worried about the outside world, but at that point, I am in my own home, and if I don't really have to do much thinking, I don't really want to, because I think a lot, and I don't just think for myself, I think for the collective consciousness or for others. Again, that's what makes me a really great coach or therapist and counselor. And now next, the N in ENFJ stands for intuition versus the sensing aspect, though I do sense again, but the intuition more so relies on probability and statistics. If you are a number person or a numerologist, I am pretty great at predicting the immediate future, and I can predict the short and long term. The midterm, that's a little bit different. It looks a little bit different because I haven't awakened that aspect just enough to see. But for the most part, I can predict the short and long term effects of things. And then the sensing is more so, and again, I do sensing, but sensing, I tend to leave that for work, and that's almost like you can equate that to like if you're a furry, or if you are into like sensory deprivation, things of that nature. You utilize your senses to interpret the world, and we do it again. Everyone does all of these things, but we do this on a grand scale so that we're not cognitive of it. But once you become cognitive of these things, you can manipulate them yourselves, but in yourself or others. Yes, the sensing. So that's why it's like very important to get these updated. We're again almost like robots. We constantly have to maintain our physical vessel, because if we keep it up to date, we can prevent things with vaccinations, and we won't get as sick as the average person, or I guess not necessarily the average person, but against those who aren't always keeping up with their health. The touch aspect. That's why it's important to wear gloves. And today we're wearing gloves because, like I said, we're in this guest room and we are going to clean this guest room from the floor up. And there's also sound, so that's why it's important to be aware of what you process in terms of these and for how long. As you can see, today we're listening to some jazz. We like to switch it up. We don't always want to listen to pop or just like mainstream music in general. So that's rap, hip hop, pop, country, all of that. Sometimes we just like classical music. Sometimes we just like listening to instruments or lo-fi and all of those things because they help mellow us out. Then from there is the F or T factor, which stands for feeling and thinking. I am very much a feeler. I feel things, but I compartmentalize very easily. So a lot of times, some people will equate me to being a robot because I'm not really that forthcoming when it comes to experiencing more like negative currents or lower electrical currents is what I like to call them, which is just your emotions. I do talk about my emotions, and I definitely am I won't say that I'm not forthcoming with my negative emotions. I just don't feel the need to harp on my negative emotions. I understand that I am a human and that I experience things, and not everything about me is positive, or not everything that goes on in my life is positive, despite what I post on social media. But for the most part,